Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Magnetic Muse, the Doing It for Your Daughters series. I'm your host, Jessica Ann, and my co host is Sunshine. Today, we are kicking off with a new series of episodes where we are looking at that very painful experience that women face. Why is he connected to me, but not committing to me? And one of the most painful things a woman can experience is confusing emotional connection with a man with emotional bonding or male bonding. There's something very, very specific and different between a man who is emotionally connected to you versus a man who is vasopressin bonded to you. And we're going to go into the real mistakes that women are making when they're deeply in their maiden or when we are not in our power and not really understanding that we are the prize, even. It's about self worth and it's about how we've been conditioned. So we would love it, actually, if you could follow, like, subscribe, and share. It's really important for us to raise the profile of this. If you love listening, we need you to start following. And we would love to invite you into the Divine Femme Collective Facebook group. So if you love the episode, you've subscribed on Spotify or wherever you follow, you've shared it with a friend, the next step is to join the Divine Femme Collective on Facebook. We will drop a link in the description. And the reason why we want you in our community is because it's amazing. And it's an amazing space for us to connect and to share our work in a deeper way.
Yes, we would absolutely love to have you. So, the main question of the episode today is, does he love you or are you just convenient? And I think that so many of us, and myself included, mistake availability, attention, um, access, even for genuine devotion. But there's a big difference between being desired and valued, and that's some of the things that we are gonna walk through today. So I think it's a good place to start for me is with access because it speaks directly to my particular wounding that I've begin working through very, very progressively and productively. Like I've made like a lot of progress and I'm so happy. Okay. Because my daddy loved me. Like he loved me. He really did. Um and if I ever needed anything from my dad, I could call him. I could call him. There was like no doubt that he would show up for me. However, I was not able to identify a connection between us that drew him to me on a consistent basis physically without me initiating or asking for something or um having some type of crisis or something like that, right? So it creates this pattern within me where I'm okay with settling for a partner that as long as they're available to me, even if they aren't reaching for me, I'm okay with that, right? So, but okay with it in that it's familiar, but still very uncomfortable with it on a deeper level. Like I'm in this relationship, I love this person. I feel like, everything is going well. There's nothing, that feels like necessarily out of place, but then there's just something in me that just feels off. And so I'm starting to realize it's because I'm not feeling reached for, I'm not feeling pursued, right? And so it's like, just because I can call this person anytime I want to or text them and always get a response or hit them up on Snap and get a reply, that doesn't mean that they're devoted to me. There are some other markers that we want to look for. Devotion plans, right? It's not just, oh, I'm in the neighborhood, let me stop by, or this is on my route to where I'm going convenient for me. Or I was planning to go here anyway. Do you want to come along? It is deliberate and intentional. When someone is devoted, they're deliberate and intentional about making plans. Um, Another thing with devotion is there's a high level of consideration. So, um, a lot of times in, my prior experiences and connections, it was like the person was just kind of so focused and wrapped up in themselves that there wasn't a lot of time and effort put into considering what I desire and what would be nice for me. So that, that consideration was lacking or whatever. It was like I could always ask for something, right? And get whatever it is, but there was never like a just, oh, I know she would like this. I'm thinking about her, and so I'm gonna just bring this thing and be considerate of her as opposed to her having to initiate every offering that I receive. Another thing about devotion is that devotion is going to provide repair. So I had a really bad habit of letting people sweep things under the rug. And, or just accepting an apology and not taking the next steps that are actually required to repair a relationship. And Jessica, if you want to hop in anywhere and stop me, you absolutely can. I don't want to be moving too fast. But
Yeah, I was like, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember way back because there's a lot of things I wanted to unpack and go through. But go on, yeah.
so I'm gonna slow down a little bit. After I talk about repair, I'm gonna hand it over to you. But so as far as like repair is concerned, I would just assume that, okay, he apologized, he's sorry, I sulked around for 3 or 4 days and now, the issue is over or whatever, but there are actually distinct steps to repair, and apology is just one of those steps. In order for it to be true repair, it also needs to include accountability. Like, this person needs to specifically identify how their actions impacted you. Like, you could say, "Oh, I'm sorry for hurting you all day long," but you need to be able to say, "I'm sorry for doing XYZ because I know that made you feel XYZ," or "I see that you felt, da 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 whenever I did da da da." Like, really being specific about what action it was that they took and the specific impact on you. That's what accountability looks like. That's what owning your shit looks like, not just, "Oh, I'm so sorry," or "Sorry if you were offended," or none of that. None of that works. And then the third thing is, in order for it to be truly repaired, there has to be not only a plan to make changes going forward, but actually change happening, right? It's not true repair if you're 2 weeks down the line and there's just another sorry and there's not been any, change in the dynamic of the relationship.
I think just focusing on that one point for a minute is a really great example of how a man is showing you through his actions that he is not oriented towards you. His nervous system hasn't moved from me to we. Um, and when a woman tolerates this, what's happening is what we're looking at really is you are training that person in how to treat you. So everything you've mentioned is really around the standard that you're holding for yourself. And I think as you started the conversation with the father, shaping your nervous system wiring to accept the pattern became I will accept somebody that gives me attention, so you're mistaking the attention, but not with devotion, not the devotion. And for me, it was slightly different. It was my father loved me for sure, but my father also had substance abuse issues. He was
Mhm.
emotionally distant. He was very, very deep in his own. He was very, very. He wasn't a provider. So what shaped my reality of the masculine from him. I began to perceive men as unable to provide and unable to actually protect me as well. So he was gentle, he was loving, um, but I never ever asked my dad for anything because he had nothing to give me. There was no advice, there was no protection, there was no financial provision, nothing. What he did do was he would frequently come to my house and I knew the love was there. So that created a very confusing internal conflict around the masculine because the one particular man that I did fall in love with or wanted to have a real relationship with was very much this father archetype. Because as you know, I think in previous episodes we've spoken about the two fathers, right? So I had the very abusive father and then so I had anyway, so that showed up. as a man, because my perception of men were I had to fix, nourish, I became the overfunctioner. And it was normal for me to develop the emotional labor. So let's go back to what you said at the beginning. And what you said was something about initiation. And you were talking about the importance of somebody actually showing a man, not somebody, a man leading the connection, showing that you are a priority. So he's initiating a plan. He says, and how my father wound directly impacted me in that way was I became very self sufficient, very hyper independent, but also I did not learn the importance of male courtship
Mm.
and allowing a man to invest in me in order and for the relationship and to create pacing and slow things down because I had no awareness of this standard. This wasn't taught to me. And what happened for me was that, and I'm going to use throughout this episode and probably this series, I'm going to use the example of the Ghost of Lovers Past because that's where the actual identity shift occurred and the pattern was recognized and then changed. The catalyst for me to become I'm a woman in my high feminine because now I have the standards. Now I observe. Now I allow. This is what they mean when they talk about lean back. What they're saying is allow yourself to observe how that man is moving towards you. Because the old pattern was he's not moving towards me, I move towards him. That's where you get into that pattern of what you're describing, of
Access without devotion.
access without devotion. So when I first met him, it went straight into sex because the agreement, and that was again another mistake that I advise women not to make. If you are actually now, I didn't go into this because I wasn't consciously looking for a partner. At that time, we both went into it. He was in a messy relationship that apparently had ended with a 1-year-old child. I was uh I had somebody somewhere else he was in prison. And so it was like the agreement was we would just connect and have sex and that. But what happened for me was I bonded very deeply. And it was for the first time that I opened my heart in a way that I had never opened my heart. So that vulnerability and that I began to think that this relationship was a real relationship. And after month 4, he left. Now he was showing levels of investment. He would clean my house. He would run errands. He was always moving towards me, which is why it was confusing. But then eventually, when it seemed like we had this deep, deep, deep connection. But looking back, I booked our flights to go to Thailand. We went on holiday even after he had finished our connection and our relationship. He was very distant. His whole behavior was defensive and weird. Now I know it's because he was actually married and back with his wife. Um, but the problem was I was trying to earn the kind of love that only comes from a shift in from attention to the vasopressin bond. So when he came back 10 years later, I was still bonded ultimately to the memory, and my physical body was bonded to the man and the illusion of connection that we had. But what was real and how I learned this when I look back at um the videos from Thailand. And there was one particular video, and this is 10 years later, this is in hindsight, where he is saying in the video, if there's a tsunami and if I die, I love you all, he's saying. And I'm saying, if there's a tsunami, yeah, yeah, we love you, we love you. And I paused because I was like, wow, my nervous system had bonded and oriented around the future between us. That was the bond. He hadn't bonded. And so the mistake, women, is, and any of you are in this pattern right now where you have a man in your life, he's a situationship, he will not commit. He says to you, I don't want labels. He's made a choice. You are the fun girl, you are a placeholder. If he's not choosing to commit to you, and you've already given access to your body, your heart, and your emotions without the sequence that allows him to invest,
Mhm.
it's time to walk away and literally build your dignity and let it go.
Yeah, I think another one of those main things to hit on is that the reason that it's so easy to accept those breadcrumbs is because they feel bigger when the nervous system is starving, right? So if you never had consistent love, right? Talking about like that father wound where it was always inconsistent or even conditional. So like if you felt like you had to earn love in your home, that can also, make the little breadcrumbs that they're dropping feel beautiful, right? If those small signs kind of make you feel like, oh, this can get bigger, and it gives you like this hope, you get that, he visits you and it feels like, oh, this is proof that he wants to be around me, he misses me, these things like that that are just small things that you should, it's the bare minimum you should, you should expect it anyways, right? And then it's like in the moment it seems like this big thing because the love that you've always gotten was inconsistent, and it's not that you're weak, it's that an old part of you just learned to survive on very little. And so you start to think that those crumbs are confirmation of something bigger than what they actually are.
Yes, and that was the biggest learning for me, this like that pattern breaking for the final time, as I know this was a big initiation. And for me, two big initiations, two men, 7 years apart, two big like quantum shifts in identity and awareness and standards about self-worth, self-love, and the actual underlying inner child conditioning that was leading the show in intimate partnership. I truly recognized that because of emotion, like when I did my shadow to sovereign process on myself and went deep into meeting the fragmented parts, integrating those fragmented parts, and really understanding the underlying patterns, which was earning love, was for abandonment being the norm. And because abandonment and because earning love was the foundational, the structure, the internal structure in the psyche, the inner child that was still was starving for affection. So when you get that tiny bit. Now, what's interesting last year though, I mean, I was, because I'm quite self-aware as well, I I wasn't I wasn't going down without a fight. So as much as I was going through this transformation and watching it, as I said before, it was like I was also observing and witnessing it in action. And um I I wasn't going to settle. Like it was coming through very, like the whole maiden to the queen was coming through because it was like, okay, here's the pattern, but also stop settling, like never settle. And so these things, breadcrumbs, like queens don't tolerate crumbs. So I got to see that. So let's look at what he would do and then how I would respond. He called me once late at night and put me in a cab to go down. And that first night, I was like, yeah. I was so excited. I hadn't had sex for like 7 years because I'd been celibate or whatever as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was
Talk about starving.
exactly, exactly. And that was it. Like, there was not, like, unfortunately, I couldn't create the mystery, the waiting because the hunger was so big. And then obviously, I've said this in the past as well, my chakra had surged, and now I realize this was, not a twin flame or some soulmate cosmic thing. It was actually the wiring of my nervous system that had been still bonded to the memory. And because what happened with him, there was a fracture 10 years before with a betrayal wound. And so my subconscious was trying to reach and solve that hunger and that loss and that betrayal. Because even looking like, having gone through the whole thing, I'd forgotten actually that this man wasn't compatible for me then, nor was he gonna be now. Um, what he said to me when I asked for commitment, so this was another shift. I didn't stay in this dynamic very long. I The pain was long. It was 12 months of deep mourning and grief and repatterning and a lot.
It was bigger than the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And noticing, just like like chasing, allowing, so things like where the old standards being ignored, and rather than accepting that, still trying to reach to so trying to reach to create the connection when really this was showing me this is not you're not moving towards. So if you're in that pattern where you're reaching for a man who is not responding or is giving you breadcrumb um, bits of connection, sometimes like disappearing for days, and that's like not a no no for you. You need to come and work with one of us, because that is the inner child pattern that's going on. Until you integrate that and recode, you're going to keep on. But the here's what I wanted to say. When I finally, and not long into it, I said, what I noticed. Here we go. What I noticed was it became very clear very quickly that he didn't want to build any form of emotional connection, emotional, spiritual connection outside of sex. So when he did message me, it was sexting, which to me at the time also felt quite alive, because
Yeah.
I was so excited for sexual exploration and play and all of those things that I hadn't had for so long. But it's very soon became very empty. And the questions arising in my mind was like, why do I feel alone here? Why is there no connection? Why do I feel like I'm carrying the relationship? Why does this feel emotionally disconnecting, although the chemistry is very strong? And um, when I said I need to know, like, are we going to build a committed connection? Because this is not, I'm not interested in a situationship. And he was like, I don't want labels. And he would say things like, I love you and I don't want to lose you, which again would confuse the mix, because his
Mhm.
actions were not aligning with somebody who doesn't want to lose you. So the one thing I want to say to women is when he finally understood that this chick's like, she's too much. And when I say too much, I'm playing, but like I'm not going to let my needs not be met ultimately. So it was not worth it for him. He wasn't going to play the manipulation game. He would have to go back to a woman who's going to accept this and tolerate it in a way that I used to, perhaps when we first met, where I was very chill girl, because I had no desire. Like I was so over understanding, and let's just be like, I wasn't connected to my own needs, but this time it wasn't going to work. So he sent me this lovely poetic message. Let's have a look at the message, because I want women out there to understand that this is not a message saying, let's try harder. This is telling you, I do not have the capacity to meet you at the depth that you want to be met. And the real problem for that was that I was trying to earn the depth that only comes when you allow a man to court you and build a bond with you. And um, this is where I learned that desire and bonding are two very different things. So he said, I hope you seek and find what you deserve, truly and sincerely. You're a woman who I cherish and truly admire in all ways possible. Our connection in all ways is unmatchable. I only wanted you to be happy, truly. Never meant to hurt you in any way possible. I love you, Jessica, and love you enough for you to be happy and content. I never want drama or toxicity. but just your warmth, love, and affection, which I craved. And this is what I want women to understand. This was very telling because what he was saying was, I was emotionally regulating on your nervous system and in your feminine, but you gave me everything when I gave you nothing. And now I have zero respect, zero interest, and there's no novelty here for me. So I've not bonded with you because you have overfunctioned, you have given emotional labor, and you have actually, I'm not saying this to blame women. I'm saying this, learn now, learn fucking now, and stop getting yourself into this connection with where you deserve. I mean, I've had men, and the problem with that show me devotion, that are moving towards me, but I wasn't moving towards them because I was leading from that inner child. And until you break that pattern, you're going to see the same man in a different face. So I never want drama or toxicity, but just just your warmth, love, and affection, which I craved. I live a hectic and frustrating life, which is constantly evolving day by day. So, with that said, I want peace for you, my love. Kiss, 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 kiss. Truly be all you're meant to be. And I was still like trying to work out, like, you're saying this, and I'm asking him. I asked him, I was like, but so you don't like, you want my warmth and love, but you don't. So what? But you don't want a committed partnership. Like, why? And there is no, like, the why. He can't explain the why. The why is you've given fucking everything. Stop giving everything. I'll leave it to you now. I'm just like,
Yeah, I have like a million notes. That was beautiful. I love that you were transparent and vulnerable and you shared that message publicly. That is like such a healing act and a selfless act for you to do that. So I just want to give honor where honor is due. It's beautiful that you shared that, and I hope you feel powerful by having shared that information in the way that you have.
um,
What I heard in the message is like an all too familiar thing. So whenever you talk about this specific ghost from lovers past, I have one of my own that just the same thing. Like he just swear that I'm his friend and he just love being around me, and I'm always positive, and like his energy after we broke up was like, I just want my friend back. You know what I'm saying? But what I noticed is in the same way that he was speaking, it was never that he didn't love you or want you or want to be with you. It was that he never had the capacity to give you what you were worth. Right. And so when you're willing to, exchange a diamond for breadcrumbs. Yeah, I love you. That's great. All I got is these breadcrumbs and you're gonna give me diamonds? You are my bestie. I love you. I'm gonna love you forever. You know, you giving me diamonds for breadcrumbs? What? And so it's real. That feeling that they have is they really love you. Like for real, they are really grateful. They appreciate that, but they know they don't have the capacity to give you anything more than what the breadcrumbs that they're giving you. So it's like, wait, you want to be fully compensated for these diamonds now? I don't got all I got is these breadcrumbs. So I have to, release you or let you go or whatever, right? And like you were talking about, the nervous system is like so confusing because you have these magical moments together and the chemistry is high. You feel like you're making progress and, oh, he's finally choosing me and he's so sweet to me when he's here. But somehow I'm still not feeling fulfilled in this relationship. And it is so confusing and so frustrating when you're in that space. Um, Another thing that is our nervous system. It loves inconsistency if that's what we're used to. And when we get that inconsistency from someone, our systems are like, yes, I love that. I'm craving that. And we don't realize that that's what it is that what you were talking about of like him disappearing for a couple days. If your nervous system is used to inconsistency, it loves when he pops back up. It's the biggest hit that your nervous system can get. It's like, oh, Jack in a box. It finally comes or whatever, right? So that's one thing to be aware of as well. And then when you were talking about asking for too much, like you said, it's never that you're asking for too much. You're just asking for it from the wrong connection. you know? Like I said, he only has those breadcrumbs. So no matter how many diamonds you bring in, all he has to give you is those breadcrumbs. No matter how beautifully you show up, no matter how understanding, patient, caring, kind, loving, warm, affectionate you are, that's not going to make him have anything more than breadcrumbs to give you in exchange for it. And then you talked about we're not blaming you for what's going on, but we are giving you the opportunity to take accountability for how the way you're showing up invites the actions and the treatment that you're receiving, and that empowers you to make a change because now you know, oh, it's because I'm doing this, and so you're able to shift. And I know a lot of you already know what it is that you're doing wrong. And it's a matter of why, when I keep coming to this same place, I know I told myself that I wasn't going to answer when he calls. He hasn't talked to me in 2 days. And I told myself when he reaches out, because I know he's going to reach out, I'm not going to answer the phone. But for whatever reason, when you get in that space with him, you still pick the phone up. And so a little bit later, I'm going to tell you about an offer that I have for you to be a solution for that. But I wanted to hit on one thing that you said when you first opened up is that, you were starving for that affection because you hadn't had, you know, intimacy in that way in so long. That was my catch. That was keeping me from moving from my awareness of I know I shouldn't do this to falling into that trap every time because I had a very strong belief that being intimate with someone and having sex with them was equivalent to the love and connection that I was actually looking for. But once I was able to shift my system, my nervous system, my belief system, I was able to separate connection from sex. And so I can give myself an amazing sexual experience, right? And that was the thing is I've always been able to do that, but I was like, oh, it's missing the connection. So what I started to do was started to appreciate where I have connection outside of romantic relationships so that I'm not starved for connection when it shows up in these little small breadcrumbs that someone with low capacity is willing to give me. So it's like not saying that all of your needs are going to be internally met and you're going to be internally resourced for every single thing because we need one another, but it doesn't necessarily have to come from the sexual connection. And so being able to satisfy that hunger, that desire that's in your body, and also that craving that you have in your heart for connection on a consistent basis, whether you're in relationship or not, is an essential skill when you're talking about shifting and being able to choose in that moment instead of just reacting from what's already programmed in your nervous system.
Yes. And I still want to go back to, though, this idea of polarity, because yes, he didn't have, so polarity versus capacity. We don't know if he had the capacity or not because I didn't allow the space for that to happen on the first time or the second time. So I was over functioning both times. So we don't like it. I slept with him the first time. We had an agreement the first. There's no polarity. It's inverted. He pursued me, but he pursued me for sex. I didn't allow the courtship sequence process. So it's not that he's incapable. There may be another woman who's in her fucking power and is in her feminine, who I am now, because it's going to be a whole different game with a different man. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you understand polarity as well, it's not that he doesn't have capacity. It's that your standards and what you're tolerating and how you've created a dynamic because of the energy that you're operating from is co-creating that dynamic with him. And when you overfunction, he underfunctions. I was deep in the mother. I'm trying to coach him. Hey, let me try and build your brand for your business. Oh, you're not making enough money for your music. Let me come up with a strategy. The man doesn't want to feel coach. And that's why I said to you, in one of my videos, so I'm looking at like, this is what accountability looks like as a woman who actually wants sacred union, who wants divine union, who wants conscious partnership, and is ready now to actually look at, well, why do I have these patterns? Or why do I look back at my relationships and I haven't been chosen? there is actually a common denominator there as well. Yes, there's the beliefs, yes, the inner child. But then you also have to look at how has being a woman been modeled to you. And once you understand polarity, a lot of this like wounding conversation shifts as well. Because yes, that stuff has to be done. Yes, your perception of masculine has to be, you have to meet that trauma and evolve. But a lot of, I think the problem is that women, high performing women, women with father wounds and mother wounds, have learnt to lead and not be in their feminine and understand how masculine men love to orient around you naturally. It's like what we talk about in our community. So we co-create. Sunshine is a community strategist, and she's helped me build the Sovereign CEO. Behind the scenes, I've hired her for my community strategy to build that. And we also co-create on the Divine Femme Collective community, and that's where both of our work, you'll find our work. The point I was going to make, um, now I've forgotten it. What was I saying quickly?
Is it, just talking about, like, the different you were saying that maybe they have the capacity, but there's not a level of polarity, and so once you're looking at how you were modeled to b what a woman is supposed to look like and how to create that polarity.
I think, yeah, see, I shouldn't have gone down the route of the community. I lost my complete thread, but it was about women. When we haven't been raised um, by women who haven't had to survive and fight and work very hard, and they have been codependent, and they have they have been serving the masculine in a way that is, because they've attracted men who are also very emotionally wounded, men who couldn't provide. So look at my example: men who couldn't provide, men who did nothing. That's what I've grown up thinking. Oh, I think I was going to talk to. Okay, I think I was going to talk about. That's just took me off track again. I think what I'm trying to say is that when you are over functioning, and when you think that I think I was trying to actually move into the maiden to the queen and the feminine archetypes. So when you have a very strong mother within you, and you think nurturing and and showing love is by caretaking and by coaching and guiding when it hasn't been asked for, the man naturally steps into either a childlike dynamic, or he feels um he doesn't it kills the attraction. So even if he had capacity, how I was showing up, I'm not blaming myself, I'm just saying I've learned that either the man will fall away because he doesn't have the capacity, or he will step up and rise because I'm not now operating from those aspects that are creating a dynamic that allows him um to breadcrumb. Because one man can behave very differently with a different woman. So when you're the one who gives access, but the other woman demands dates, of course he's going to be, because anticipation reorients the male nervous system for bonding. I learned it too late. That's why we do it for the blood clot daughters.
Facts. And so the assumption that I made about capacity is because in the message he's giving you, "Oh, my life is so hectic. I have all these different things going on." And that's what low capacity men sound like. They have all of these reasons why they know what you deserve and they want you to be happy. And that, and they never wanted to hurt you, which is really just a way to avoid accountability.
Yeah.
And they're giving you all of these excuses. That's a way to say, okay, this is about capacity, most likely. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes it's just gaslighting too. Just he just lying. Because like you said, there's another woman who he's showing up and doing all
Well, I
of these
don't know.
things
I don't
with.
know. Just saying there
No,
could
I'm
be.
saying it could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like what Jessica is talking about is like generally when you're like looking at conventional dating advice, it's either what Jessica was talking about is like become his mom and start like gentle parenting him and oh, you need to communicate more. You just have to tell him your needs and you have to say it in a certain way and all of that thing, or is start playing mind games with him,
No, no.
like,
Oh, no, no.
start manipulating. Start and
Yeah,
those are
no,
like the two opposite ends. And it's like, no, 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 no.
no.
Here's a medium of where you can shift the way that you're showing up in the relationship, but not from a place of punishment or games or
Oh, no.
manipulation. It's just a matter of right sizing access and changing the level of access that they have to you. If he's inconsistent, then he gets inconsistent access. Cause like she said, you gotta build that anticipation. If he's unclear, limit his access. If
Yeah.
he's not investing, planning dates, not giving you all of the things that you need in order to feel fulfilled and loved and cherished in the relationship, then don't give him the benefits of devotion.
And don't give access to your pussy. Until you're ready, until he's meeting certain levels of standards, like emotion, like he's interested in you, he's asking questions, he's initiating, he's planning. These are standards, and I think that's what, like, when you began this conversation today, it began with ultimately, what are the standards I need to hold as a high feminine woman in my high feminine, not high value. We're all fucking valuable. High feminine, though, understands all of this ultimately, that you don't chase, you magnetize, you don't chase, you attract, you don't get like all emotional and contained, because you're not leading from your wounds, because where he's like, you're not trying to beg for attention, earn the love, because you've healed all that. Now that's what happens when you do work with either one of us. um what we're now saying is, this is how you now operate as a woman with standards who understands what high feminine energetics in relationships is. And this connects to business as well, which I can't wait, but we'll talk about that on the Sovereign CEO podcast. So, yeah.
Yes. Like that right side action, again, it's not punishment, it's dignity, it's self-respect, right? And so even if you still want to have sex with him and that's just where you're at in the journey because that's a part of the journey, that's okay, but don't let it be on his terms and always convenient for him. Like set some standards and boundaries around it's going to need to be in this way at this time when I want it, not you acquiescing just, oh, he's in the neighborhood, let me stop. You know what I'm saying? Like be intentional about the standards that you have, even for just sex, if that's the space that you're in and that's what you want. It doesn't need to be at his convenience and at his, beck and call and at his whim because you don't give him an opportunity to, again, rise to whatever standard it is that you have from him. I think, that's another thing with a lot of dating advice. They're like, stop dealing with him, stop doing this, stop doing it. If it was that easy, then I wouldn't be watching the video, I wouldn't be listening to the podcast, you know what I'm saying? Because like it's easy to say, walk away, and most of us know that that's what we should do, but it's the nervous system that holds us in those patterns, that keeps us in those places. There are experiences that are holding us in those patterns and preventing us from being able to move forward. So it's like if this conversation is making you realize that you keep mistaking breadcrumbs for genuine care or you're giving someone convenience and they haven't committed to you, you're having a hard time right sizing access so that you can get the devotion that you need, I do have a breadcrumb offer for you, something that you can take advantage of, because knowing the pattern is one thing. A lot of us know the patterns. We know where we're at in those cycles, but being able to catch it in real time and have a strategy in place to follow when your nervous system is screaming for you to go back into your normal pattern is such a powerful way to pivot. Okay. So the work that I'm doing, it helps you look at where exactly you're accepting the partial access at, because sometimes, like I said, you're in those moments and it feels really good, so you're not even aware of where the partial access is until he leaves and you have that feeling of emptiness, like something was wrong. I remember having one partner that I would really enjoy him and have a great time, but for whatever reason, whenever he left, I would just feel dirty and empty and use and I could not put my finger on what it is. So I can help you, notice where you're accepting that partial access at. I can help you understand which of your wounds is making the behavior feel familiar to you of why, you're accepting that. I can help you see that what you may be calling love is actually just scarcity, like, that hit that you get whenever you finally get the jack in the box to pop up out of the box. And, help you see what standards need to be restored in your connection. And then what behavior you can shift in that choice point that puts you in a place where you can have a different experience.
Yes. And I think I'd also want to really highlight and illuminate it's not well, I'm not saying don't have sex. I'm saying if you want a good fuck and you've got a good lover, enjoy that, but be aware of what your actual needs and your intentions are. Because if you are wanting, you will bond. That's number one. So you need to be aware of how that works for you, and how what your actual needs are. If you're wanting partnership and union, think about what you're doing, because it's very unlikely a man is going to step up once he's had access and hasn't had to invest his time, his resources. Look at what the dynamic is that you're creating. You as the woman are creating. Enjoy, a great lover. I've had many great lovers. And it served a really great purpose at those times, because I was busy, I was working, I didn't want um I didn't want I wasn't available for a relationship. So having a great lover who you know each other's bodies, your sexual experience is great, lovely. But if you are a woman who is looking, if you're really looking to break out of your intimacy wounding and really start to look, and you're a woman who's self-aware and saying, I've done all of this stuff, but I cannot break the pattern. And I now want the actual shift that's going to move me out of being consumed and being um having these kind of low effort relationships, to move into a woman who is pursued, cherished, adored, who is claimed. If that's you, come into the Divine Femme Collective, number one. If you're a high achieving woman, high performing woman, and you really want to learn the feminine arts and really shift your behavior patterns and dynamics, again, come into the Divine Femme Collective group. And you can work with either one of us, and we have many different ways of working with us on these issues. So I think we're going to wrap up. Is there a final thought for today's podcast?
Yes, I have a final thought and a takeaway. Just based on what you just said, I just want you guys to know that being convenient will not earn you commitment.
Yeah.
That is not how you create commitment. Commitment is not even something that you earn, it's something that you require. You have
Mm.
to shift your standard and what you're willing to accept in order to get the level of commitment that you actually deserve. And then the final thought that I want to leave with you is stop asking yourself, "Oh, does he want me? Does he love me? Does he want to be with me?" And ask yourself, "What does his wanting you require of him?"
And not does he want me? Is this man ready for, is this a man showing me that this is a man that can build with me? Shift it from him wanting you to you being the selector, you choosing. And again, it comes back to standards. So, things we need you to do right now. If you've listened to the end, well done. Congratulations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Subscribe, like, follow, share, join the Divine Femme Collective. It's on Facebook. There'll be a link in the description. Thank you so much. And as always, if there is anything you want to add in the comments, we'd love to have this conversation. But maybe the Divine Femme Collective is actually, it's a private group. It's a group where we can go deeper, and let's get this conversation going. Let's raise our standards. Let's step into that high feminine energy. The time is now for you to really receive what you truly desire. You don't need to wait till tomorrow. Do it now. Love, love, love.
And, just one last thing, if you're looking for me and you're interested in that breadcrumb offer that I have, my link tree is gonna be at the top of my link tree, as well as a link to the Divine Feminine Collective, the Divine Femme Collective group, so that you can come and be a part of that conversation. And depending on where you're watching this, if you comment breadcrumb, I will be happy to reach out to you as well and provide you with the information so that you can join the group and get the offer.
Beautiful.